What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerf herders, and welcome to the Carbonite chat. I am going to be wearing my hood up for this video in honor of the Emperor making his appearance. I absolutely love the Emperor. I absolutely love these episodes. Man, what Dave Filoni has done with these episodes is so far and above what we've seen from the storytelling in the movies. It's mind-boggling. There's so much deeper things inside of there it's so easy to miss. It's one of those, I mean, I'm sure I need to rewatch a lot of it, and there's a lot of Greek mythology and references to that in this. And I did a video yesterday on the Mortis series, and I'm really glad I did, because there was so much in there. If you haven't seen that, if you're just someone that's been watching Rebels and haven't watched the Clone Wars, again, please go watch the Mortis series with season 3 episode 15, 16, and 17. It won't mess up you watching it in order, because as you've seen in this, it's kind of a whole nother dimension, and I love it. Some other people have some issues with it, and I can understand their issues, but man, the way it went with this was just, to me, incredible. And even if some of the people I talked to when I did the Mortis video weren't a fan of it, you gotta at least respect the ability to tell such a deep and involved symbolic story when it's a Disney XD show, and they can't do this in the movies. It's unbelievable to me. First off, the episodes were, I believe it was Wolves on the Door, or Wolves of the Door, in a World Between Worlds. Now, there was a few things I found really interesting. The first one was Minister Hydim. At first, I thought he was Vinay, or however you say his name, the assistant of Darth Vader that we saw in Rogue One. At first, I thought he was Yup Tashu, which was kind of an advisor to Emperor Palpatine that had a key role in the Aftermath novel series, but then they said his name was Hydim, and the character that assisted Darth Vader, he looks very similar, but it seemed like he died at the end. That could be a twist. He may not have died. It seemed like he died, and so it may just, all those old weird followers of the Sith people, they all kind of look the same, I guess. But so I thought that was the case. Not really the case. Another little interesting little nugget is when the wolves moved and then they began to spin into a circle. It's very interesting, because when the whole Ahsoka thing was going on and whether she's alive or dead, Dave Filoni released a lot of artwork, and one of the artworks that he released was Ahsoka walking through a circle of wolves running around. It's very interesting that this is where that kind of portal idea came from, and very intriguing. It was cool to see that. The second I saw it, I was like, I recognize that. Of course, the interest of the way they played Sabine and her ability to understand and look at art with this Minister Hydim, I really enjoyed it. And then the stuff with Ezra. Now, I can get that this can be up in the air depending on how you want to, depending on your style of what you enjoy in Star Wars. And for me, I absolutely loved it. I thought this was incredible. It makes all the rest of Rebels mean something. Like, just the fact that we got to hear it just reassures me of Dave Filoni's utter brilliance. To connect the Clone Wars with this, to connect Mortis, to do it in this way. I mean, it's very, as I said, kind of steeped in Greek mythology, and it's very interesting. The daughter, when he ends up putting his hand up on the daughter, or the daughter ends up saying, I believe I had to write it down to make sure, we are the ones who guard the power. We are the middle, the beginning, and the end. Now, I was trying to think of, exactly what this was referencing. And then when they went through the portal and Ezra finds a hole and ends up freeing Ahsoka, which is absolutely amazing. Wow. I absolutely adore Ahsoka. And the fact that Filoni not only connected Mortis to this, but ends up connecting all the way back from season 2 to then bring Ahsoka back out. And the great way of kind of messing with the fans, unlike a lot of people felt the fans were being messed with The Last Jedi. This is a brilliant way, and this is where Dave Filoni is a master at what he does. We all wonder what happened with Ahsoka. Now we got an answer. What ends up having our answer? Now it's just like, well, wait a minute. Where is she now? Is she still back in that time? I would imagine she's still back in that time. So she's living a couple years ago now. So where's she been at during all this time? Why did she never end up being able to find them? Or is she in some kind of weird, space time continual type thing to where she's in the future, but yet everyone else is in the... I don't know. I mean, there's so many interesting things that's created from this concept. And I understand a lot of people could probably say that there's some dangerous things that can come from this concept. And I liked how they play with that. And I like how they closed it off. But also, it makes me wonder whether or not the Emperor can have some access. And I'll get to that. But first, after she's pulled out, which again was just amazing, she talks to the convoy and she calls the convoy Morai. Now this was where it began to connect, and this is where Greek mythology comes into place. Morai is a reference to the fates in Greek mythology, the reference to destiny or the people who control the fates. This is just brilliant. Just a little bitty nod, and I was like, wait a minute. As soon as she said that name, I was like, that means something. And it connects perfectly with the fates. It's not perfectly. Let me say that. It's not perfectly, but it's definitely a big hint. The fates, they control it, as what I said before, where the Dar says we have the power. We're the ones that guard the power. They're the ones that guard the control of fate and destiny. And they were called gods in this one, which in Greek mythology, there's a lot of different kind of lines between exactly what the Morai are. Some view them as even controlling the fates over the gods, and some of them think that they are submissive still to Zeus. And I think that they're playing with this line with Emperor Palpatine here, where right now Emperor Palpatine is submissive to him, but if he can get in there and get control, then he can be like how some people view Zeus and in control of destinies and fates of others, which would be just terrifying, which is why he wants to be able to have access to this and why it mattered so much to him. So I kind of like how it's playing that line of the two kind of theories of exactly how much control or power the fates had. But the other key thing is that there was always 3 of them. They were usually goddesses and all 3 females, which is why in some of them they're considered the daughters of Zeus. But that's, again, you don't have, it's just a reference to this, so it doesn't mean that we should scrap it, and this isn't what it means. I think it's most definitely what it means. But you've got 3 characters, the daughter, the father, and the son, and I think it's key that the daughter was the key to get inside of there, because the fates are all usually considered 3 daughters and 3 goddesses. So yeah, I just find that, that's just intriguing. I love it. All these little hints to connect to the fate, and inside of that, and the fates, they were spoken of as like controlling the thread of life. And that they would decide, each one had their different decisions. One was, to decide on what the destiny of a person was when they're born. The other one was to control kind of the thread of their life, and the other one's to end it. It's very much a shortened kind of explanation of it. But if you look at how Ezra's walking inside of that area, you have all time and space kind of talking. You've got moments, you had Rey speaking in there, you had Jyn Erso speaking in there, you had Obi-Wan, Kanan, Princess Leia, Luke, Vader. You had all of them. It was very intriguing, but it was clear with 2 lines running. It was almost like it was a type of thread that he was moving along, that was combining all of what was going on throughout all time and space. And I think that's really interesting that they are controlling the thread of life. And man, to pull that out in a kid show, and all those people that wanted to like hate on me because I didn't like The Last Jedi, because I was like, it's not good. And they're like, it's just a thing, just sit back and enjoy it. And I'm like, am I supposed to just be, a dumb person sitting back and just eating popcorn and, turning off my brain? Well, this is exactly what I mean by that's just, you're not expecting enough. They can do better. And this is proof. Like you don't have, this is subjective in whether or not you enjoy it. It's objectively intellectual. Now you can decide that in my entertainment, I don't want to have that depth of kind of an, intellectual thing that I got to dig into to enjoy it. And you can enjoy it without knowing all this. I hope a lot of you watching this enjoyed it and you had no idea this stuff was here, and you're like, oh man, that just makes it more interesting. That's the brilliance of it. And I think that's what happened. I know some people that didn't like the Mortis things that said, is it going to end up, maybe not liking this, maybe you did. I look forward to hearing exactly your thoughts and opinions. But man, I loved it. That proof that you can do a kid show like this. What in the world are we doing with the movies? Come on, guys, step your game up. But man, I adored this so much. Is there anything else in the story that I kind of missed? There was some with Kanan and the wolf. Ahsoka kind of talked about it. And Dave Filoni did an interview with SYFY Mag or SYFY.com and kind of gave some answers to Kanan. And from what I got from it, I'll post the articles down below. There's 3 of them. And he discussed Kanan and the ability of the wolf, and that Kanan isn't exactly the wolf, but that he's kind of like his essence, because the Force moves through everything. That when he stops being the human that we see, the Jedi, as Yoda says, luminous beings we are, that because he's so focused on a task that's going on, that prior to being expanded out completely and joining in with the Force as one with everyone, he is the essence of his desires, goals, passions, and they're all brought into connection with the wolf. Now this can go connected and be along with the fates, as they said, because the fates led to the wolves moving and opening up the portal, and so it could be a higher connection with what was meant to be as far as fate and destiny goes. But to explain the Kanan thing, he was not the wolf, but a large amount, the key part of his force, as it was disbanded at death and moved into being luminous, and becoming one with the, galactic force. It was focused at first in this wolf, and I guess the end, when the wolf goes off, is when Kanan begins to, fade off and become one with all things. This, I think, is interesting addition, and what I get from it is that those who have the abilities, those who are force sensitive and depending on destiny or fate, have the ability to sustain their force for a specific job or a thing that they're trying to accomplish for a period of time. And it's not but with training that you can then learn how to not be joined in the essence of another creature like a wolf or something like that, but show up as your full self, as we've seen with Force Ghosts, with Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin. That requires lots of training and lots of effort. But with the wolf, in this case, the Force was at work in a way that allowed Kanan to have some of his force expressed out in a way that allowed the wolf to lead Ezra to do the things that needed to be done. I hope that's explained well. I fully don't understand it myself. That's why the links will be down below. That's kind of what I got from it. I hope I explained it well enough. Fortunately, maybe you got enough information from me, from some of the Greek mythology insights, that you're not like, oh, dislike, this guy's an idiot. The other thing that I'll just kind of comment on is the Emperor. Now, the Emperor was able to reach through another portal. This was very similar to in the Clone Wars, around the same time where Yoda is trying to figure out how to learn how to become one with the Force and become a Force ghost. And Emperor Palpatine is trying to get at Yoda, and him and Count Dooku are able to use the Force and kind of transfer themselves somewhat and have a kind of struggle with Yoda. This is very similar to what we saw here in this episode. The issue is we saw him reach through the portal. Now in this, where it's happening is, I believe, below the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. There's an old Sith temple below it, and that's where he's at trying to do this. Now, if that's the case, does that mean there's a portal there? Is it only open because Ezra opened up the one portal, and that opens up the abilities for all portals, and now that it's closed, all of them are closed? Or that's probably what it is. Or is there a potential that the Emperor can get in? I mean, obviously he can't, because if he would have been able to, there would have been much different things happen in the future. But yeah, I think that definitely it was just all portals opened when Ezra opened up that one portal, and then when he closed it, he ended up closing them all. Anyways, I look forward to hearing all of your thoughts down below. I know that's a lot of different stuff. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the episodes. I may have missed a few things. I think I kind of covered it all, but I was just so into kind of the deal with Greek mythology and fates and the connections with Mortis, and I loved all of that stuff. I may have missed some of the stuff. This was just kind of the basics in the episode. And yeah, there was some kid stuff, and there was really some kind of seemed like blatant references to The Last Jedi, actually, with some of the comments, or the possibility of The Last Jedi novels, with some comments Ezra made about, I wish I could have lived a different life, which again is kind of hinting at fate and destiny again, which is why I think it's so relevant for what was kind of symbolized or metaphorically used in this episode. But it hints to the video I did earlier today about Luke and his kind of contemplating on whether or not he could have not, gotten married and stayed on Tatooine instead of living the life he lived, which I definitely don't like that idea, but not the topic of this video. And the other one was just Chopper driving the thing, kind of reminded me of BB-8 driving the AT-ST. But, what are you going to do? It's a kid show in that one, so it's perfectly fine. And, it didn't bother me that much. But anyways, I look forward to hearing all your thoughts down below. I'll post some videos. I'll post that Mortis video if you want to check that out. And I'll post some other Rebels stuff, whatever ends up feeling like's the right thing to post then. I'll post them there. I'll have those links I mentioned down below in the description, as well as a link to my TeePublic page. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I'm very intrigued. I'm probably going to have to rewatch this at least a few more times. This was one of my favorite. It's probably one in my top 5. I'll put it right now in my top 5 favorite Rebels episodes, and that includes the Twilight of the Apprentice, which is that Ahsoka episode, and then the one with Maul where he meets Obi-Wan. That one hit me really hard. But this one, man, it was great. I can't wait for the finale. It's going to be hard to match this in my mind, but we'll see. I trust Filoni. He has not failed me yet, and man. Anyways, thank you as always for watching, and never forget, you Nerf herders, I love you.